I didn't know reggae would last for so long. I think it would just washed up like calypso.
Some reggae stars spend their whole lives chasing the spotlight. Others get a taste of fame and say, nah, I'm good. Today we're talking about 15 reggae artists who stepped back, slowed down, or walked away from fame. Some did it for family, some for spirituality, and others just didn't want the circus that comes with being a star. You might be surprised at how many legendary names made that choice. So, sit back, relax, and let's go through this list of artists who proved you don't always need bright lights to shine. Mutabaruka. Mutabaruka made his mark in the 1970s and 80s as a dub poet and musician, quickly becoming one of the most distinctive voices in reggae. His music was powerful, politically sharp, and carried messages that resonated deeply with listeners, tackling issues like social inequality, corruption, and the struggles of everyday life. With tracks like Dis Poem, Inna de Yard, and Rastafari is not a culture, it's a reality, he had plenty of opportunities to chase mainstream fame, record commercial hits, and tour endlessly around the world. But Mutabaruka wasn't interested in being a typical star. Instead, he leaned into spoken word, poetry, and activism, creating work that mattered more than chart positions or awards. He shifted from stage lights to a different kind of mic, the radio mic. His radio show in Jamaica became legendary for its fearless social commentary, tackling controversial topics that many others avoided. He built a loyal following not because he wanted stardom, but because he wanted to challenge systems, ask hard questions, and keep his audience thinking about the world around them. Mutabaruka's work made people laugh, think, and sometimes squirm, but it always demanded attention. While other artists toured endlessly or sought crossover success, Mutabaruka stayed grounded. He grew his dreadlocks, kept his sandals on, and reminded everyone that he wasn't about the glitz or glam of fame. He often joked that he had rather feed minds than walk red carpets, and honestly, it's hard to argue with that. Even today, he's recognized less as a musician and more as a cultural voice, an educator, and a fearless truth-teller. Mutabaruka walked away from fame, but in doing so, he walked straight into history, leaving a legacy that continues to inspire reggae fans, poets, and activists alike. Justin Hines. Justin Hines had a golden start in the 1960s with his group The Dominoes. Hits like Carry Go, Bring Come and Arda Bella quickly made him one of Jamaica's most beloved voices, helping shape the ska and rocksteady scene. He wasn't just a singer, he was a pioneer, influencing countless artists who came after him. His smooth, soulful voice and effortless charm made him a natural star, and the music world seemed to be opening doors everywhere he went. But after years of recording, performing, and riding the wave of success, Justin made a choice that set him apart from many of his contemporaries. Instead of chasing bigger international tours, commercial endorsements, or trying to cash in on reggae's rising global popularity, he retreated. And I mean literally. Justin moved to Steertown, a quiet rural community in Jamaica, where he embraced a simpler, more private life. Music was still part of his world, but he wasn't performing constantly or courting fame. You know how some artists cling to the spotlight even when the phone stops ringing? Not Justin. He bowed out gracefully, prioritizing family, farming, and being a part of his local community. That, for him, was the truest version of success. Fans who sought him out didn't find a flashy celebrity or someone chasing headlines. They found a man at peace with his choices. He never stopped earning respect, but he wasn't concerned about chart positions, awards, or magazine covers. By the time he passed in 2005, Justin Hines had proven that you don't need to burn yourself out to leave a mark. He helped build the foundation of reggae and then quietly lived the rest of his life on his own terms. And honestly, that's a kind of stardom that money, fame, and awards can't buy. Jimmy Cliff. Jimmy Cliff is one of reggae's most recognizable and respected international stars. With his starring role in the film The Harder They Come and hits like Many Rivers to Cross and You Can Get It If You Really Want, he became a global icon almost overnight. Fans everywhere knew his face, his voice, and his message. He had fame, tours, and recognition, yet Jimmy was never the type to let the industry dictate his life. Throughout his career, he pulled back from the spotlight multiple times. Sometimes it was to focus on spirituality, exploring his inner life and beliefs away from the hectic touring schedule. At other times, it was simply to lead a quieter personal life, spending time with family and friends without the pressure of constant public scrutiny. Jimmy's breaks weren't failures or retreats, they were choices, a deliberate balancing act between career and sanity. While other artists chased crossover success and non-stop exposure, Jimmy maintained control over his pace. He refused to let the demands of fame dictate his happiness. Every time he returned, whether with a new album, a collaboration, or a live performance, it was clear that he had lived life on his own terms and brought back authenticity rather than just hype. Fans may have been frustrated at times, waiting years for new music or appearances, but Jimmy's approach showed that longevity isn't just about staying in the headlines, it's about staying true to yourself. Walking away from fame, even temporarily, allowed him to preserve his creativity, health, and spirit. In the end, Jimmy Cliff's story buys a masterclass in balance. He didn't abandon music, but he didn't surrender to the pressures of stardom either. He proved that stepping back can actually strengthen your legacy, making him one of reggae's most authentic and enduring icons. Max Romeo. Max Romeo made waves in the 1970s with songs like Warring a Babylon and Chase the Devil, cementing his place as one of reggae's most socially conscious voices. His music was politically charged, spiritually aware, and often fearless in tackling social issues. Fans loved his powerful delivery, thoughtful lyrics, and his ability to turn a melody into a message. With talent like his, the world seemed ready for him to chase global superstardom. But Max Romeo had other plans. At the height of his career, instead of seeking non-stop tours, international contracts, or commercial success, he stepped back and focused on family life. He returned to rural Jamaica, took up farming, and embraced a slower, grounded lifestyle. While some might have seen this as stepping away from opportunity, for Max, it was a deliberate choice. Personal fulfillment mattered more than fame. Even during his quieter years, Max never completely left music. He recorded selectively, sometimes performing for close friends or local fans. Fame was no longer the goal. The music and his message were what counted. He wanted to live authentically, raising his family in a stable environment while still creating the art that mattered to him. This choice set Max apart in an industry obsessed with visibility. He showed that success isn't always measured by charts, awards, or the number of people in an audience. Sometimes it's measured by peace of mind, creative freedom, and the ability to live life on your terms. Max Romeo's story reminds us that walking away from fame doesn't mean abandoning your legacy. He built reggae's foundation, spoke truth through his songs, and then chose a quieter life that allowed him to continue contributing on his own schedule. In his case, leaving the spotlight didn't diminish his impact, it made it even more meaningful. Desmond Dekker. Desmond Dekker is one of reggae's true pioneers. In the 1960s, he broke through internationally with hits like Israelites and 007, Shantytown, bringing Jamaican music to audiences around the world. His songs were catchy, socially conscious, and full of that unmistakable ska and rock-steady energy. For many, he was the face of early reggae, and his influence paved the way for countless artists who followed. But after achieving international fame, Desmond made a choice that surprised some fans. He stepped back. While other artists chased constant exposure or tried to reinvent themselves to stay trendy, Dekker slowed down. He still recorded music and performed, but he didn't push to stay in the commercial spotlight. Instead, he focused on living a more grounded, quieter life. He didn't fade away because of a lack of talent or ambition. Desmond knew what he had contributed to music, and that gave him confidence. He understood that legacy isn't measured by constant visibility or media attention. By pulling back, he maintained his authenticity, letting his music speak for itself, rather than relying on hype or the latest trends. Even as newer reggae stars emerged and the industry evolved, Desmond remained respected, revered, and remembered as a trailblazer. Fans still celebrated his early hits, and his influence was undeniable. Desmond Dekker's story is a powerful reminder that you can make history and then choose your own pace. Walking away from fame doesn't erase your impact, it can highlight it. He showed that you can define success on your own terms and still leave a permanent mark on music and culture. Big Youth. Big Youth was one of the defining figures of reggae in the 1970s. With his flashy style, towering presence, and hits like S90 Skank and Hit the Road Jack, he became a household name in Jamaica and beyond. He was innovative, influential, and instantly recognizable, often blending social commentary with a unique, charismatic delivery. Fans loved his energy, his voice, and his fearless approach to music. But after dominating the scene, Big Youth made a choice that set him apart from many of his contemporaries. He pulled back. He didn't disappear because he lacked talent or popularity. He stepped away because he wanted control over his own life and creativity. He wasn't interested in being pushed by the industry, chasing chart success, or constantly touring to satisfy commercial expectations. Instead, Big Youth took his time, making selective returns only when the music felt right. He released albums and performed live, but always on his own terms. This deliberate pacing allowed him to preserve his creativity, maintain authenticity, and avoid the burnout that often accompanies fame. He stayed true to his message and his style, refusing to compromise for the sake of popularity. Even during his quieter years, Big Youth remained respected, admired, and influential. Younger artists looked up to him, and his music continued to inspire fans around the world. His decision to step back didn't diminish his legacy. In many ways, it strengthened it. Big Youth's story proves that sometimes the smartest move an artist can make is to hit pause. Walking away from constant fame doesn't mean fading away. It means staying true to yourself, your art, and your life. In reggae, where authenticity is everything, Big Youth's measured approach remains legendary. Junior Byles. Junior Byles is one of reggae's most compelling and heartbreaking stories. In the early 1970s, he emerged as a rising star with hits like Curly Locks, Fade Away, and Beat Down Babylon. His voice had a raw, emotional power. His lyrics carried deep social messages, and fans believed he might become one of reggae's next global icons. He wasn't just talented, he was unforgettable. But behind the music, Junior faced personal struggles, particularly with mental health, that made it difficult for him to sustain a high-profile career. Instead of pushing through the pressures of fame, he made the choice to step away. He lived quietly for decades, far from the stage lights and media attention, focusing on survival and personal stability rather than chart positions or tour schedules. Even though he wasn't constantly in the spotlight, Junior's influence remained strong. His early recordings continued to inspire reggae fans and artists alike, and his story became a poignant reminder of the human cost behind fame. Sometimes stepping away isn't a sign of weakness. It's an act of self-preservation. Junior Byles didn't abandon music entirely. He made occasional appearances, recordings, and collaborations when it felt right, but always on his terms. He avoided the pressures and expectations of the mainstream music machine, proving that authenticity matters more than constant visibility. By the time he lived out his quieter years, Junior Byles had shown that walking away from fame doesn't erase your legacy. His early impact continues to resonate, and his life illustrates a vital truth. Personal well-being and creative integrity can be more important than awards, tours, or headlines. Junior Byles walked away from fame, but his voice, message, and artistry remain immortal in the hearts of reggae fans. Cocoa Tea. Cocoa Tea made his mark on reggae with smooth, conscious tracks that spanned decades. From the 1980s into the 2000s, he produced hits like Good Life, Rikers Island, and Jah Made the Jungle that cemented his reputation as a reliable, soulful voice in the genre. Fans loved his calm yet powerful delivery and his ability to mix roots reggae with dancehall sensibilities. Yet despite his success, Cocoa Tea didn't chase fame the way many artists did. As his career progressed, he chose a quieter, low-key lifestyle. He performed selectively, recorded albums when he felt inspired, and avoided the relentless grind of touring and media appearances. Fame was never his ultimate goal. Music, authenticity, and personal peace were. Cocoa Tea didn't feel pressured to release an album every year or constantly headline festivals just to remain relevant. This approach allowed him to maintain balance. While younger artists pushed to stay visible in an evolving industry, Cocoa Tea kept his sanity and creativity intact. He proved that you could have longevity in reggae without being everywhere at once. His selective approach to performances and recordings meant that whenever he did appear, it felt special, a gift rather than an obligation. Cocoa T's decision to step away from the constant glare of fame also protected his personal life. Fans never had to see him overexposed or burned out. They saw an artist who controlled his pace and preserved his voice. In doing so, he remained respected across generations. In a world where stardom often equates to non-stop visibility, Cocoa T's story reminds us that stepping back can actually strengthen your legacy. By prioritizing authenticity and personal well-being over public attention, he walked away from fame's frenzy, but never from the music. His influence continues to resonate, quietly, powerfully, and on his own terms. Rico Rodriguez. Rico Rodriguez was a master of the trombone and a true pioneer in ska and reggae. His career began in the 1960s, and he played with legends like the Skatalites before eventually contributing to reggae's international sound. His work with the Specials during the UK's ska revival helped cement his status as one of the most influential trombonists of his generation. Every note he played carried energy, soul, and unmistakable authenticity. Despite his prominence, Rico never pursued fame in the way many frontline artists did. Being a trombonist often meant staying in the background, and Rico seemed perfectly content there. He wasn't chasing headlines or magazine covers. His goal was simple: play music that mattered and influence the scene with his skill. Over time, he gradually withdrew from constant touring and public life, choosing instead a quieter existence that allowed him to enjoy music without the pressure of fame. This retreat didn't mean he stopped making an impact. Rico's influence on younger musicians and ska enthusiasts remained profound. His technique, improvisation, and approach to rhythm inspired countless artists who wanted to emulate his style. Even when he wasn't on stage or in the public eye, his legacy was actively shaping reggae and ska worldwide. Rico's choice to step back highlights an important lesson. You don't have to be front and center to leave a lasting mark. Fame is often loud and fleeting, but impact can be quiet and enduring. By keeping a low profile, Rico maintained creative freedom, personal peace, and authenticity in a music world that often prioritizes image over artistry. When he passed in 2015, fans celebrated not just the musician, but the man who proved that walking away from the spotlight doesn't diminish your contribution. Rico Rodriguez may have lived quietly in his later years, but his music, influence, and legacy continue to resonate across generations. Marcia Griffiths. Marcia Griffiths is reggae royalty. As a member of the I-Threes alongside Bob Marley and Rita Marley, she helped define the sound of some of the genre's most iconic recordings. Her solo career also shone with hits like Electric Boogie, which gave the world the legendary Electric Slide. With talent, charisma, and global recognition, she had every reason to chase fame relentlessly. But she made a different choice. Marcia decided to balance her career with her personal life. She stepped back from the relentless grind of international touring and media appearances, prioritizing family and her own well-being. She continued performing and recording, but selectively. Fame wasn't the goal. Living a meaningful, grounded life was. This approach allowed her to remain authentic, avoid burnout, and keep her artistry strong without succumbing to commercial pressures. In an industry where women are often expected to work twice as hard for recognition, Marcia's choice was powerful. She proved you could step back, live a quieter life, and still maintain a legendary status. Fans never forgot her contributions, and her voice remained timeless, celebrated across generations. Marcia also prioritized mentoring younger artists and preserving the legacy of reggae. She showed that success isn't measured solely by exposure, chart positions, or awards. It's about impact, authenticity, and longevity. By focusing on family and purposeful work, she redefined what it means to be a star in her own right. Her story is an inspiring example for anyone in the arts. It's possible to shine without being consumed by fame. Marcia Griffiths walked away from the constant spotlight, but she never walked away from music or influence. Her legacy continues, proving that stepping back can sometimes amplify your impact in ways the industry never could. Leroy Wallace. Leroy Horsemouth. Wallace is a legend in reggae drumming, known for his groundbreaking work on classics like Rockers and his collaborations with artists such as Augustus Pablo. His rhythm, precision, and creativity made him one of the most respected drummers in the genre. Beyond his skill behind the kit, Wallace also appeared in the cult classic film Rockers, which helped solidify his place in reggae history. Despite opportunities to capitalize on fame from both his music and film work, Wallace chose a simpler, more grounded path. He didn't chase international superstardom, endorsements, or commercial tours. Instead, he focused on keeping his life and his music more underground. By doing so, he maintained creative freedom, authenticity, and a sense of peace that fame often threatens. Wallace's choice to step back didn't mean he stopped performing. He continued to play, record, and contribute to reggae's evolution, but always on his own terms. Unlike some artists who burn out from constant touring or media pressure, Wallace controlled his schedule and preserved his energy for what mattered most: the music itself. Fans and fellow musicians respected him deeply for this approach. His influence extends far beyond his public appearances, inspiring drummers and reggae musicians worldwide. Wallace demonstrated that success isn't measured by the size of your audience or the number of headlines you make. It's measured by impact, innovation, and staying true to yourself. Leroy "Horsemouth" Wallace's story is a testament to the power of living intentionally. He walked away from fame, but he never walked away from music. By keeping life simple and music authentic, he remains a revered figure in reggae, proving that the greatest legacy isn't always in the spotlight. It's in the rhythm, the craft, and the heart. Rita Marley. Rita Marley is known not only as Bob Marley's widow, but also as a powerhouse in her own right. As a member of the I-Threes, she provided unforgettable harmonies on some of reggae's most iconic recordings. Hits like No Woman, No Cry wouldn't be the same without her voice. She had the talent, experience, and recognition to pursue solo superstardom, but Rita made a conscious choice to step away from the constant glare of fame. After Bob's passing in 1981, she could have leaned fully into the spotlight, but instead, Rita focused on family, philanthropy, and preserving Bob's legacy. She founded the Bob Marley Foundation, supporting education and cultural initiatives in Jamaica and abroad. Fame was never her priority. Impact was. She understood that sustaining a meaningful life meant choosing when and how to be visible. Rita did continue to record and perform occasionally, but she wasn't chasing awards or media attention. Her decisions reflected a desire for balance, honoring her late husband's legacy, raising her family, and using her influence for positive change rather than personal gain. While some artists feel pressure to stay constantly relevant, Rita prioritized authenticity and purpose over popularity. Her life demonstrates that walking away from fame doesn't diminish your voice, it can amplify it. By stepping back from the relentless pace of celebrity culture, she retained control over her career, her family, and her contributions to reggae. Fans continued to respect her work, and her presence remained significant without dominating headlines. Rita Marley's story reminds us that success is multidimensional. You can leave the spotlight, focus on meaningful work, and still be legendary. She walked away from fame, but in doing so, she cemented herself as a cultural and musical icon, showing that true influence comes from choices made with heart, purpose, and vision. Don Carlos. Don Carlos is celebrated as one of reggae's most soulful voices, known for his work with Black Uhuru and his successful solo career. Hits like Rastaman Live Up and Young Girl showcased his smooth delivery, conscious lyrics, and unmistakable presence in reggae music. Fans admired his voice, his style, and his ability to convey emotion with every note. He could have chased fame relentlessly, but Don Carlos made a different choice. Instead of constantly seeking the spotlight, he retreated from the intense pressures of the industry. He performed selectively, recorded albums on his own terms, and avoided the trappings of celebrity culture. Fame wasn't his ultimate goal. Personal fulfillment, creative freedom, and maintaining authenticity were. By stepping back, Don Carlos preserved his artistic integrity and continued to make music that mattered to him and his fans. His choice to live more privately didn't mean he disappeared from the reggae scene entirely. He remained respected by peers, inspired younger artists, and occasionally appeared on stage or in recordings when it suited him. Every appearance felt deliberate, intentional, and meaningful. He avoided the hustle for recognition or commercial success, showing that a steady, thoughtful approach can create longevity in the music world. Don Carlos' story highlights an important lesson. You don't need to chase fame to maintain relevance. Walking away from the spotlight can protect your creativity, sanity, and personal life, while still leaving a lasting mark on the genre. By balancing his music, personal life, and selective public presence, Don Carlos demonstrated that true success comes from staying true to yourself. He walked away from fame, but in doing so, he preserved a legacy that resonates with reggae fans worldwide, proving that quiet authenticity often speaks louder than constant visibility. Johnny Clarke. Johnny Clarke is one of reggae's most respected roots artists. Emerging in the 1970s, he delivered hits like None Shall Escape the Judgment, Everyday Wondering, and Riding High, which cemented his place in the genre alongside other greats of the era. Known for his deep, soulful voice and conscious lyrics, Clarke became a symbol of authentic reggae music. His work inspired generations of musicians and fans alike, and his influence is still felt today. Despite his talent and early success, Johnny Clarke chose a more modest path. He didn't chase global superstardom or non-stop commercial attention. Instead, he focused on creating music that mattered to him, living a life away from the constant pressures of fame. While many artists feel the need to be in the public eye at all times, Clarke prioritized his personal life and well-being, demonstrating that you don't need to be everywhere to leave a mark. Even while stepping back from the spotlight, Johnny never stopped recording or performing completely. He made selective appearances, releasing music when he felt inspired, and performing for audiences who appreciated his artistry. His deliberate approach allowed him to maintain creative freedom, avoid burnout, and preserve the authenticity that fans loved about him. Clarke's life is a testament to the idea that success isn't always measured by visibility, tours, or awards. Walking away from fame can be a conscious choice to protect your art, your health, and your peace of mind. By living modestly and keeping a distance from the trappings of stardom, Johnny Clarke maintained a legacy rooted in authenticity. He showed that stepping back doesn't diminish your impact, it strengthens it. He may not have chased fame, but his music, message, and influence remain timeless, earning him a place among reggae's most enduring icons. Eek-A-Mouse. Eek-A-Mouse is one of reggae's most eccentric and unforgettable figures. His high-pitched sing-jay style, quirky stage presence, and unforgettable hits like Wa Do Dem and Ganja Smuggling made him a fan favorite in the 1980s. He stood out not just for his music, but for the sheer unpredictability of his performances. But despite all the attention, Eek-A-Mouse didn't treat fame as a permanent obligation. At the height of his popularity, he began disappearing from the scene. He would live abroad, avoid the public eye, or simply step away for months or even years at a time. Unlike many artists who chase constant exposure, Eek-A-Mouse followed his own rhythm. He didn't vanish because of failure, he vanished because he wanted to. Fame wasn't the goal, music was, but on his terms. Part of this eccentric behavior came from his personality. Eek-A-Mouse never played by industry rules. If he wanted to disappear for a while, that's exactly what he did. He didn't feel pressure to release a new album or tour continuously. The world could wait, and he could live life however he chose. Legal troubles and personal challenges also played a role in his absences. But even before those, Eek-A-Mouse had established a pattern of stepping back. Fans might have been frustrated at the unpredictability, but they also loved the mystique. Every return to the stage felt like a surprise gift, full of energy and personality. Eek-A-Mouse's story reminds us that walking away from fame doesn't have to be permanent or dramatic. Sometimes it's about creating space for yourself, preserving creativity, and living life your way. He may have vanished from the spotlight at times, but his influence, his style, and his unique energy left an imprint that's impossible to ignore. And there you have it, 15 reggae stars who proved you don't have to chase fame to make history. They stepped back, lived quietly, farmed, prayed, raised families, or simply said, "Nah, I'm good." And in doing so, they reminded us that success isn't always about the spotlight, it's about staying true to yourself. So, which of these stories hit you hardest? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the untold stories behind the music. Until next time, keep the vibes righteous.